Hey, everybody. Thanks for stopping by this morning. I am with Ray, the founder of Bitchute. Ray and I actually interviewed together, or I should say, Ray let me interview him a few months ago. Gosh, it was early 2018, wasn't it, Ray? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's quite a while ago now. It's great to be back.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of chat with me today. Just so for people who don't know, kind of give me a bit of a background about Bitchute, kind of the history. So, kind of bring everybody up to speed.
Okay, well, Bitchute is a video sharing service. So what that means is rather than having all the content being served from a centralized location, people who are watching the videos can actually some of their bandwidth as well. And that works using the WebTorrent protocol, which is based with that.
I apologize, Ray. Can you say that again? You cut out just a little bit. I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. From the very beginning, from the top.
No. Talk about the WebTorrent protocol and how the process works.
Okay. Bitchute uses WebTorrent, which is the browser-based BitTorrent. So how that works is that when you watch a video, you're not only downloading the content, but you're also uploading the content as well if you've got it enabled. So people, the more people watching, the bigger the network grows, the less our actual server. We can scale much better than even YouTube for a fraction of the cost. We don't need as many data centers. We don't need as many servers. So that's one part of Bitchute. The other thing that really sets us apart is that we're
Say that again. I apologize. You cut out again.
Yeah. Another thing that really sets us apart is that we're freedom of it. We're not companies who has hate speech rules because we just don't believe in them. We want people to be able to say what they like on the internet as long as it's responsible. We don't allow incitement to violence, of course, or anything that would be illegal. But if it's if someone wants to talk, then we believe that's the best thing for them. They should be able to put their ideas and information out. If they're controversial, even if their ideas are wrong, then the best way to deal with ideas is to come at them with right ideas. And, you sound like you're going to interrupt.
No. I just you keep cutting out a little bit. So let me see if I can kind of recap what you just said. Just again, I mean, I know that you were a half a world apart, and I understand that internet connections are not always great. So it sounds like to me what you're trying to say is that Bitchute supports freedom of speech as long as there's no incitation of violence. Is that correct?
Right. So yeah, we do have rules, and we enforce those rules, but we're making a stand against hate speech. We don't believe it's right. We don't believe it's a good thing, and we believe that freedom of expression is a human right. It's something that everyone should have access to.
Now, I will ask you this, because I know this is something that came from the last interview, and it's something that I know that Bitchute has a firm stance on. Does Bitchute allow adult content on its platform?
Right. So we don't allow full pornography. So,
say that again. I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
We don't full pornography. We do allow adult content as certain adult content as long as people categorize it properly. As long as they say that it's adult content. But it was never our intention. We didn't set out to be a site that's just full of pornography. And we were worried at the beginning that could actually happen because, there's so much out there that people can just upload it all the time. There's, homepage will be full of it. So, we never saw pornography as a free speech issue, and we don't allow that. But
okay. Now let me ask you this. I know that, like, for example, on YouTube, if somebody marks their content as adult content, it limits discoverability. How does that work on Bitchute?
Okay, so for example, if someone went to with the adult content, you have to be logged in because I don't think there's another reasonable way to do it. But once you turn your filter on and set it that you want to be able to see that content, then it will come up in your stream just along with everything else. And then it's up to you if you want to click it.
Okay. I think the reason I bring that up is because I think that that's a very mature way to handle it, because the reality is this: we live in an outrage culture where if somebody sees something, all of a sudden it's everybody else's fault, even though they chose to click it. It's like they refuse to take the consequences of their actions. If you don't want to do drugs, then you don't do drugs. But just because somebody has drugs in your presence doesn't mean you actually have to do them. You actually take the proactive step of making those things happen. And I think that the fact that Bitchute has that, basically it's on the user. In other words, if you, the user, don't want to see adult content, you just check the box that says, I don't want to see adult content. Or if you do want to see it, you can opt in. I think that's a very mature and intelligent way to go. But I also think it puts the accountability where it belongs, which again, at the end of the day, is on the user. Obviously, you guys have some checks and balances. You don't support incitations of violence. You do support freedom of speech. You did not want your platform overtaken with pornography, but you guys don't have any ethical problems with it. I completely understand that. So kind of talk a little bit about where the company is. Obviously, when we talked, I don't know, it was like 6 months, a year ago, you kind of gave me an overview of where the company was then. Talk to me about where the company was and where you are today in general.
Right. We've experienced a lot of growth since then. So, we're now a top 10,000 Alexa ranked website. So we're getting a lot more traffic. We're getting videos put up. If you just look at the homepage, you'll see several videos going up a minute now. Something like 3,000 videos.
Nice.
And a lot more viewers as well, and a lot more content creators. So the site is really growing hugely, and that's brilliant. We've had a few problems, which we'll probably come on to on the monetization side, but aside from that, it's been really great. We've had a lot of support. There's a real appetite there. There's a real appetite from people to get off big tech and to try alternatives. And
of course,
it's not just about the people who've been forced to, even though there's quite a lot of people who have, but there's people who just realized that it's time to move away, and we're really benefiting from that, and that's why we started it.
Let me ask you this. So, obviously, Bitchute is still growing. Bitchute is kind of grassroots funded in a way. I mean, you guys don't have the funding sources that traditional big tech has. One of the big complaints, though, that I've heard from a lot of people is the fact that sometimes the videos don't play. Is that something that you guys have addressed a little bit? I mean, I'm sure you've been paying attention to it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so with a torrent-based system, not all the videos are going to be highly seeded. So some videos will be more popular than others, and they'll have more seeds, and they'll play more smoothly. So what we've done to address that is we've just allocated more server resources to those types of videos. So hopefully when people click on them now, they should notice they play a lot quicker and a lot smoother.
Okay.
We have done quite a bit of work there.
Now, I know that another criticism of Bitchute is the fact that there is no phone app. And I know we talked a little bit before this interview. Can you kind of address the phone app sort of thing, so to kind of let people know what's going on there?
Right. We do have an unofficial Android app. A guy called Hexagod has made that for us. So if you go into the Android store and you search for Bitchute, you should find that, and you'll be able to install it right away. And he's working on that.
What's the app called for people to search for it?
It will come up under Bitchute. So he's called it Bitchute. It's an unofficial app, but it is called Bitchute.
And he's building that for you?
He's building that. It's a dedicated Bitchute Android app. We also have plans to build more, to build for iPhone, to build for more apps. It's really come down to resources and cost. We hope to be further along, but we've had setbacks on the monetization, which has prevented us from doing that.
Understandable.
So there's also quite a dark shadow hanging over the app stores, because they've got a tendency to kick out any companies. There's only really two big players there. There's Apple and there's Android, and they've got a tendency to kick out companies that they don't like. So it's quite possible that we build a really kick-ass app, and thousands of people start downloading it. As soon as it's popular, it will be deleted, and if that happens, then we can host it on the Android side outside the App Store. On the Apple side, you can't really do much about that at the moment.
Of course. Now, when it comes to the app, I mean, have you used it? I mean, what do people think of it so far? Because obviously, this is torrent protocol, and if they're downloading or they're torrenting, through their phone, obviously cell connections, they differ in location, they differ by provider, they differ by phone plan. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. So, just actually, before we go into that, I'll say, and this applies to the app, this applies to the website in general. If people are unable to, if they've got expensive bandwidth, they're unable to dedicate some, we do have a button in the settings where at any time they can go in, just flick it off, it's one click and hit save. And that will stop them from having to share their bandwidth up. So it is purely optional. We're not trying to force people to use their up bandwidth if they don't want to. Obviously, we do need people to do that because that's part of the model. But we recognize that some people just won't be able to, or won't be able to all the time, and they can turn it off when they need to.
All right, let me kind of reiterate that for my viewers. So basically what you're saying is that even though Bitchute runs on torrent protocol, you understand that some people's cell phone providers or some people's internet providers, they meter their bandwidth. And so obviously if you're downloading information and you can't offer it for upload because you want to conserve your bandwidth because you're going to get charged more, you can actually go into the settings, you can check a button or, uncheck a button, you can save it, and then you're not basically a torrent anymore, you're just a traditional downloader. Now, obviously, that puts a little bit more load on Bitchute, but for the individuals involved, it makes it so that it's more cost effective for them, especially if they have like a metered data plan either on their phone or on their tablet or on their desktop computer or laptop. Is that accurate?
Right. Yeah. So it could be for that reason, or it could just be that they've got a really slow internet. In which case, we probably wouldn't be benefiting much from the upload on those guys anyway. So when it swings and roundabouts. But yeah, we decided not. Our policy across the board is to try and not force people to do stuff. We want them to do it because they believe they're doing it for the right reason, because they want to contribute in that way. So we normally take the approach that if some can be toggled off, we'll try and build in a button to make sure that it is.
It's actually kind of funny because I've been on the internet for an extremely long time. I'm not young. I've been on the internet since the early 90s, like 93, 94. And what's interesting is I remember when I first got on the internet, a lot of things that people take for granted today, you used to have to opt in for. So in other words, like nobody would share your information unless you opted in. And now it's like big tech says, oh, well, if you don't want your information shared, well, you can opt out. But then they don't care. They share your information anyway. It's interesting that you have that former philosophy with Bitchute in that you actually seem like you care about your users. You seem like you care about their experience, but more importantly, it's like you are trying to consider your platform from a end user perspective, as opposed to how do we make more money? How do we gather information? How do we addict you to our website? I think that philosophical guidelines, those philosophical guidelines that you guys embody, I think that really carries over with the way the platform exists. The fact that you actually care. I mean, obviously, Bitchute is a work in progress, just like YouTube is, just like every other big platform is. But I think it's interesting because it's like your philosophies, in my opinion, are far more ethical and they are far more geared toward user experience and user empowerment than other big tech platforms out there. So I just kind of wanted to point that out because that was something that just kind of struck me just now, and I thought it was something that should be have attention brought to it.
Well, thank you very much, and that's exactly what we've been trying to get across. And even if you look at our community guidelines, we've put principles up there. We've said, we're for freedom of expression, not for oppression or incitement. We're for opportunity to exceed, but not bias. We're for people power, but not mob rule. Individual responsibility, but not censorship. And decentralized distribution, but not legal distribution. And empowering creators, but not exploiting them. So, all those messages have been up there since the start. And it's really a good thing because it feels like you're part of the community rather than trying to fight the community, because you see all these sites where the people are blocking ads, and then the site is coming up with new ways to force them down their throat, and it's a sort of ongoing battle. Whereas actually on that note, we've even got a button where you can flip off ads. You can go into your settings and just turn off ads, which is something. Ads are something we're testing right now.
Wow! Holy! Wait! So if people don't want to see ads on their videos, you can just flip a button off and be like, "Yeah, I'm not interested in ads."
Yeah, we've got a button, and I think it says next to the button, bear in mind that we're earning less than this. The creators will be earning less than this. So if you want to do this, then consider helping in other ways.
Right, and we'll talk about the ads in a second. But yeah, I agree. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, there's no point in fighting people. I mean, it's very silly when really you can just think, well, that isn't working for everyone, so let's come up with a different system that will work for those people. And I think that's a better way of looking at it, and hopefully that will see us good, and we'll keep growing with that.
Right. Now let's kind of switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about demonetization and some of the financial challenges that Bitchute has been going through. Talk to me a little bit about the big three payment processors and kind of your experience with them. And I'm specifically talking about Stripe, PayPal, and Patreon. So talk to me about Stripe a little bit and tell me kind of what the backstory is about that, and kind of what your experience is and why they are not working with you.
Okay, so yeah, we've been removed from all three. Stripe was the first, and that we were actually one of the first companies to be removed from Stripe, which was a complete surprise for us. I say first to be removed, but the first in this sort of round of censorship. And that was back in June of 2018. It was completely out of the blue. We were given 5 days notice. We were told by email. Initially, the email that we were sent didn't have much information, but we were able to get some more information out of them, and it was remarkable what we found out.
Well, let me ask you this before we jump into that. Let me ask you just real quick. Obviously, Stripe terminated you. They gave you 5 days notice. Tell me what was the rules they said you violated, or I should say, what were the rules that they said you violated, and more importantly, what were their specific reasons for removing you from their platform?
Right. So this is really interesting, because with Stripe, there were no violations. There were no laws broken. There were no rules violations. In fact, we got an email back from them after we'd corresponded with them that said they acknowledged that we hadn't broken any laws. They acknowledged that if they had a choice, the way they wrote it, that they would have no moral objection working with us. But they said that it was actually their financial partners that made them remove us. So we never did find out which financial partner, who names of them, but we found out that was the reason.
That's crazy. So they never even told you who directed them to not work with you anymore, just like some shadowy other person.
Correct. But it wasn't because we had broken the Stripe terms. And, we put a lot of work into that. We'd done all the development. There's a lot of testing. There's a lot of development involved. There's a lot of promotion. So we'd got all this ready. We'd launched it. We'd started taking creators had put their trust in us and started taking payments on the system. And it was just ramping up. We'd got through the first full month where we paid out to the creators. We paid out every penny that the creators were due. And that's when it came.
Well, let me kind of reframe that just a little bit, because I think that this is important, especially given the state of the internet and big tech social media right now. Okay, I just want to reiterate some of this stuff, and if I'm stepping out of line, let me know. Okay, so you were set up with Stripe as a payment processor. You never violated any of their rules. You never violated any laws associated with Stripe. They still discontinued being your payment processor. They kicked you off their payment platform. And they specifically said that their financial partners told them to kick you off. Now, with that said, that's antitrust. I mean, in the United States, that's antitrust. I mean, I understand that, a lot of people may not see it that way, but I mean, I've been looking at this for quite some time. And I know that, for example, in the EU and in Germany and in places in Europe. I mean, Google has been found guilty of doing this. I mean, there's fines. This is common knowledge. There's news articles about it. I mean, when somebody interferes with your business relationship, that's antitrust, but it's also a tort. I mean, it's suable. And the fact that they've admitted that creates massive amounts of legal liability. And again, so everybody is clear, I'm not an attorney. I am just a paralegal, but I've done a lot of litigation. I've done a lot of legal research, and I've had many attorneys support my views in the past, both within the MGTOW community and without. Now, obviously, for those people who are interested, this is something I think that's extremely important. And people like YouTuber Law may want to pay attention to something like this, because Bitchute is a growing platform, but Bitchute would be way farther along had people not interfered with its business relationships with others. This isn't a situation where, the popularity of its platform was waning and people were like, Bitchute's okay, but it's not that great because it's not that great. Bitchute would have been farther along had they still had their payment processors, because then they could have used that money to invest back in their platform. And so, for this sounds like something that is extremely unethical conduct. It sounds like something that may be a violation of civil law in a variety of first world countries. And it sounds to me like there is also a very good possibility that this violates criminal antitrust laws as well. I know, at least in the United States and possibly in the UK and Europe. And again, I'll jump off my soapbox and let's kind of, go on to the next one, so to speak. Talk to me a little bit about PayPal.
Right. So, I mean, after the Stripe thing, we decided we didn't pursue any legal recourse after that, but we decided, right, we'll just change things. We'll do things a bit differently. We moved to more of a subscription-based model after that, and we were using PayPal. And PayPal, it's one of them. I think it's the most popular online method of payment. So everyone's got a PayPal these days. So it's quite a hindrance not to have it. We implemented the new system, and that was really popular from the get-go. In the first 3 months, picking up fast in the payments we were taking, and then in November, we got another email that our PayPal account had been suspended. And that was all of a sudden out of the blue again. And the reason that they gave was that we'd broken their rules, and they cited some hate speech rule. So once again, knocked off another payments processor for really just supporting freedom of expression. And,
right.
We as a platform, we allow people to upload. We're a neutral platform. We're a public forum. So, we have people who make controversial videos. Of course you do.
Right.
A lot of those videos have been on YouTube for years.
Right. And let me say something, too, in the United States. You guys are covered by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. I think that's what it's called. But the thing that's important about this is that you guys under federal law in the United States, you can't be held accountable for what's on your platform. I mean, I just did a video the other day where Google basically had terrorists on YouTube. Okay. They were making ISIS recruiting videos. They had another video on YouTube where they were promoting child exploitation. Again, they went to court, and it was the United States Attorney General. And the Attorney General said, look, these are violations of federal terrorist laws. And the court said, no, this is an exemption. I mean, for payment processors to try to say, look, you violated our rules, this is a problem. We're going to kick you off our platform. I think that's very disturbing. To me, that's disturbing, especially knowing that they know what the defenses are. So it's like, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, other social media platforms. They're like, oh no, we can have terrorist information on our platforms because we have this exemption. But if a neo-Nazi puts something on Gab, we have to hold Gab accountable, even though the law says we can't. Or if we don't like something that Bitchute puts on its platform, we have to hold Bitchute accountable for the same rules that we know that we're immune to. The level of hypocrisy there is absolutely insane, because it's like, we are protected by the law, but the law that protects us, which also protects you, we're going to pretend that law doesn't exist so we can witch hunt you. This is a indefensible hypocrisy in a way that is absolutely insane, because again, these are ideological positions. So even if they tried to, like I'm an end user, right? So if they want to say, oh, well, we're going to ban you for hate speech, and let's say I'm in the United Kingdom and there are hate speech laws there, okay, now maybe I don't have a leg to stand on, but I'm in the United States. The United States Supreme Court has ruled that hate speech is not a reason to silence somebody. We have First Amendment constitutional rights of free speech. And then on top of that, there's an additional law that says that the platforms themselves, the social media platforms themselves, can't be held accountable for what the users put on them. Now, as a user, obviously, it's a little bit of a gray area. There's some lawsuits going on right now. I know PragerU is in the Court of Appeals in federal court against Google, and they've recently filed another state court action in the state of California where they brought up some stuff. And this was like in the last, I want to say 3 weeks or so, the new lawsuits come out against Google. And that lawsuit is in direct response to what the Court of Appeals has said, because they've said, look, sue them for these other things in state court. We're going to dismiss them in federal court, and you move on with your federal court issues. But unlike me, or unlike PragerU or some of these other content creators, you're an actual social media platform. You should be able to have the same protections they do. And they know better, because their attorneys have actually made these particular arguments to defend their positions in state courts and in federal courts ever since this Section 230 was passed into law. Now, with that said, I do want to draw attention to one thing. So I'm going to put on the screen right now. This is BitChute's immediate removal from PayPal. It is on, I think, is this your blog? The published
That's
by
our
BitChute?
blog.
Yeah.
Yes,
so this is
info.
Right. So this is the blog where Ray talks about why he was removed from PayPal. So for those people, I'll have links to these things in the description of this video. You can kind of check that out. Now, the thing that kind of disturbed me, Ray, and again, I'll try to get off my soapbox again. I'm a bit of a ranter, as you know. You told me prior, so you were removed from PayPal. What was their reasoning for removing you?
It was a hate speech violation of their terms.
Okay. And then my next question is, so you violated their hate speech rules. Did they give you a chance to appeal it or fix it or rectify it at all?
Right. So PayPal, no, absolutely not. We weren't even able to get a further reply out of them. We tried to contact them by phone. We tried to contact them by emails, several emails, and they just wouldn't reply back. They wouldn't give us any more information. So they completely stonewalled us. And, they just, we've heard that they do this to quite a lot of people. Yeah, that's all I can say. We would have loved to found out at least what they considered to be that content to even give us a chance to appeal, but they didn't. They wouldn't.
So they never told you what the specific content was. They just said, "Oh, you violated hate speech. We don't like you anymore. Go away." Is that accurate?
That's it.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Yes, that's completely accurate.
Okay. All right. So obviously there's not a lot more to talk about there. I think that's wrong, but it is what it is. Talk to me about your experience with Patreon and how long you were on that platform and what happened when that relationship ended. Right.
So we'd been on Patreon quite a while, actually. We hadn't been pushing it as much as the PayPal, but we had accumulated quite a few patrons down there, and it was something that was helping us as we had been kicked off the other two platforms. This was another case of we just got an email one day and found out again. I think this was end of November, start of December. We were told that our account had been suspended. Again, not much information. We replied back. And then we got information about our terms of service weren't up to their levels. So in the terms of service, you have all the things that you allow and you don't allow on the site. And the one that they specifically called out was that we weren't disavowing incitement to violence. We had no policies against violent organizations, which was completely untrue.
Right. So let me kind of make sure that my people understand that. So in other words, when Patreon initially canceled your account, their reasoning was that you did not have any rules barring or any rules opposing the incitement of violence. And then what did you do, and what did you show them and provide them in response to that?
Right. So we went through our terms, as anyone can do, and we pulled out all the areas where we actually say you can't incite violence on the platform. We don't allow terrorism. We don't allow illegal violent organizations. We don't allow any sort of incitement to violence that that you would expect, because it's not considered free speech. It's illegal. And there are many places. In fact, we've probably gone overboard on that because we want to make it very clear. But once we sent them an email, we were quite hopeful that they might actually change their mind, because from what they told us, it seemed like we had a good chance. But we got a reply back, and they didn't try to address any of our points at all. All they said was that no, we can't be on the platform. It's hate speech related, and that was it. So that was the end of our Patreon account.
All right. So again, just to kind of recap for everybody watching this video. So Bitchute was on Patreon. Patreon took them off of Bitchute and said, Bitchute incites violence. It can no longer be on Patreon. So then Bitchute responded with, no, we have a bunch of policies here that actually show that we oppose inciting violence. We oppose all these things you're talking about, and we can prove it. So they provided the proof to Patreon. And then in response, Patreon changed their position and used the overly generic hate speech and took them off anyway. Again, knowing that social media platforms are immune from being held accountable for what's on their platform because of Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act. Just kind of a little bit of an FYI. Let's put this in the proper context using verifiable facts and observable reality. Now, with that said, one of the things that really disturbed me about this story and about this situation with Bitchute, I had a conversation with Ray prior to recording this video, and Ray provided me with this following article from Forbes. I'm going to put it on the screen right now. Maybe. All right, there we go. Short Bus is making all the stops today. All right. The article is entitled, FTC Must No Longer Ignore Silicon Valley Bias. This article is from Forbes from December 6th, 2018, so it's a relatively recent article. Now, I'm going to scroll down a little bit to the important piece here. It says, concerns about dominant platforms blocking free speech are well-founded. In fact, many dominant platforms appear to block competitors who appeal to free speech-oriented consumers. For example, Google, which owns YouTube and controls over 90% of the US search market, but does not display Bitchute, a platform which appeals to consumers dissatisfied with YouTube's content restrictions in its video search function. Google may have a legitimate justification for this policy, but it clearly implicates competition policy. All right. Now, this is a very politically correct way of saying that this is antitrust, that Google is targeting its competitors, and Google is targeting the competitors of YouTube, which in this case is Bitchute. So Ray, now that we've taken a look at that article, can you give me some feedback on that article, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so one thing that they didn't mention there is that we were previously in those video search results. So it's not a case that they've just not added us, a case that they had added us, or whatever system they have for adding us had added us in the past. We were on there for a long time. We did notice a drop-off in traffic, and they had removed us. So, we don't have any contract with Google. We don't have any contact there to question someone to find out why we were taken out, or they don't normally make that reason public, I don't think. But we were actively taken out of the video search results from having once been there. And,
let me ask you this. When did you discover this?
At the time of this article, a little bit before this article.
Okay, so like late November, early December, prior to the publishing of this article. Okay.
Yeah, and there was a drop off of our search engine at that time as well.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Another thing we talked a little bit about prior to this particular interview. I'm going to put this up on screen as well for the viewers. All right. This is Bitchute's Twitter account, and I don't know what date this tweet was. Let's take a look and see if we can find it. It was from November 14th, 2018. It states...
That's the PayPal one. Okay.
Yeah. It states, in addition to getting higher traffic than usual, we've also been getting DDoS attack in the last 24 hours. Fortunately, the site has held up very well and normal service has continued throughout. Thank you for your continued support. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Right. So first of all, it's not uncommon for social networks to get DDoS attacked. We get this DDoS attack fairly regularly, and they're not as large as this one, but it happens, and you have to be able to deal with that as a social network. The thing that we've noticed is quite large DDoS attacks always come in conjunction with these things. So it's happened. It happened with PayPal. It happened with Patreon. It happened with Stripe before that. And it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not saying that there's any connection back to the companies, of course.
Right, but it correlates.
It correlates. Yeah.
Well, so let me reiterate that, because you did cut out just a little bit, just to make things abundantly clear. So the larger DDoS attacks that you've received occurred right around the time that payment processors deplatformed you from their platforms. Is that an accurate representation of what you said?
Yes, I think that PayPal one, in fact, may be the largest one to date still, and about 10 times the traffic from that.
Let me put that actual viewer stats, that web traffic stat, on the screen. Give me just a second. Okay, this is the actual web stat from the tweet that was put out by Ray from Bitchute. And as you can see on the first half there, it looks like his average traffic was somewhere around, at the time, was around 25,000 unique visitors per hour. If you look on the far left, it's got the 50,000. So it looks like it was ramping up. Then it got to 100,000, and then it got to over 200,000, and then it looks like they gave up. Now, did you guys actually step in when these DDoS attack happened and do anything, or were you just trying to load test your system?
Yeah, so we decided, because we were watching this ramping up and we were monitoring the system, and it was really holding up very well. So we thought, let's let it run, because this is something quite expensive to do. If you send that much traffic at a site, it's quite expensive to do it. So we thought, wow, let's give the site a real load test, and they hit the peak. We didn't have to put in any preventative measures. We just let it carry on. They hit the peak and ramped down. Yeah. So
in martial arts, yeah, and it's funny because in martial arts, I always tell people, look, if you're not capable of hurting me, I don't have to hit you back because you're not a threat. So that's funny. I mean, that also speaks highly of the platform that you built, because it says, look, these people attempted to DDoS you. You just sat back and watched and went, we have tools in place, but why implement them if there's not a problem? And you just used it to load test your system. So good job, hackers. Way to prove that Bitchute's platform was robust and secure. Let's switch gears again a little bit. I think that's kind of funny. So talk to me about actual monetization and kind of where you're going. Start with advertisements, and then we'll move on to crypto.
Right. So we're testing advertisements at the moment. As I said, it's optional. People can turn them off if they like. We've got a few channel owners helping us. We're not against. We've never been against adverts. We think adverts is a part of life. Anyone can advertise themselves. So we want to build it in such a way that that people can opt in and they can really benefit from it, and we can benefit from people power. So we want to have a system where people will eventually be able to sell adverts on their own pages, and bring it right down to the creator level, managing who gets on there. We also, because not everyone will want to do that, we're going to have more generic adverts, which is what we're testing at the moment. Very soon up, we're bringing in right now. You can add your PayPal to this.
Right. Let's talk about that in a second. I know before I touch on that, I want to talk about a little bit about crypto. And I'm going to put I'm going to put your blog back on the screen. Give me just a second here. And I want it because I noticed that, like, when we talked the first time, you talked about crypto. You talked about the possibility of partnering with, maybe a cryptocurrency or something like that. And I remember when we were talking prior to the interview, I noticed you had Shoot tokens, which is on the left-hand side of the blog. If anybody looks, it says a utility token for Bitchute. And I know that this is a proof of work token. Obviously, you told me that before, but kind of,
right.
go into that whole.
Can I stop you there, actually?
Because, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
We've actually changed this. We've changed the way the project. You're right. It was a proof of work token. We decided against that, and we've changed it to a delegated proof of stake token. There's a few reasons for it. Work is slower, and it's also a proof of work blockchain is also susceptible to certain attacks. There's the 51% attack. So if you're going to build it, you have to build it really big. You have to build it to such a size that it's not going to be affected by activists coming at you with a lot of hash power. Proof of stake doesn't suffer from those, so we've changed it completely. That's all the techie stuff out of the way. But it's going to be a lot of the things are similar. The functionality is going to be similar. That it's going to be built in. It's going to be utility on the site. People will be able to do power chats using it. People will be able to send the crypto to one another. It's going to be all decentralized. And I'm quite excited about it because even though crypto is still, Bitcoin's 10 years old, but it's still immature in that a lot of people haven't adopted it. We've got some really good ways that are coming in that's going to get more people on board of it, more people using it from day one. And awesome. I think it could be a really good complement to the dollar-based monetization. Because I don't think it's quite there that, that we should go 100% crypto, but I think it's a really good complement and in the more important.
Right. All right. So let me ask you this. All right. So now we can kind of jump into the whole conversation about PayPal. Now, while you're talking, I'm going to put this on screen so you can explain it to the viewers. Okay. So this is a test bed. Is that correct?
So this is our coming soon site where we test things before they go live on the actual site. But I've given you access to this so you can take a sneak peek at what's coming out in the next week. So this is undergoing testing at the moment, provided there's no problems found that needs to send it back to dev.
Right. Then, before you jump into it, let me kind of explain what I've put on the screen. So, because obviously you can't see it right now. This was actually the monetization button under a BitChute video that's got the different processors. So just so you know, so you can kind of explain it to everybody else. Go for it.
Right. So where we're taking a different approach to other sites, we're going to go for having lots of different payment options. We're not going to stick to one or two. We're going to keep layering on lots of different payment types. So there's going to be, even ones that have been kicked off, we've been kicked off of. We appreciate that other people haven't, and we're not going to try and force them to leave because we have. So, PayPal's still going to be in there if people want to use their PayPal. We've also got crypto in there, so people are very easily going to be able to add lots of different crypto coins. So people who may not be used to crypto, who have never set up a wallet in their life, this is going to make it really easy for them, and they're going to be able to go to viewers watching the video. They're going to be able to click one button. They're going to be able to choose from different options. There's Bitbacker, the crypto payments, there's PayPal, there's Subscribestar, and they're going to be able to select which one they want and select I'll donate as a tip or maybe a recurring payment if it's applicable, and click go. And so the idea is just to make it a multitude of different ways that you can support creators. And also what I want to say about this, we're not actually taking a cut from these. This is direct from the viewer to the creator. So no one can compete with us, even though, YouTube, I think they take 3% from a super chat, don't they? Something like that. We're not taking a penny because we've got a different model where people support us through subscriptions. So we can build this out.
Yeah, and let me reiterate that. Yeah, and let me reiterate that. This is very clear, okay? So basically, what you're saying is that you got like Bitbacker and coin payments on the top. You made it easy for people who want to use Bitcoin to support content creators. If a content creator is on Patreon, you can choose Patreon to support the creator. If they have PayPal, if they have Subscribestar, you can choose to support them there. You're going to be adding new payment processing companies for people to do that. And this is a pass-through. So in other words, this is like embedded things. And BitChute's not a part of it. BitChute does not take a cut. And the thing that's important about this, I think, for me, is it's important from an ethical standpoint. Because again, I know we talked a little bit earlier about, how do you want your site to run from a user perspective, and how do you want to empower your users? And the fact of the matter is that you guys could have tried to take a cut on many of these payment processing options, but you chose not to. I mean, obviously, some of it's because you've been deplatformed. But even though you've been deplatformed, you understand that your users still use Patreon, your content creators still use Patreon, they still use PayPal, but you're giving options as well. I think that, again, empowering the user, empowering the content creator is huge. And again, this is a huge thing that a lot of content creators were concerned about with BitChute. And you guys are not only addressing the problem, but it looks like you are well on your way to solving this. And, I don't know, I correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the first that this has been talked about publicly?
This is the first. Yep, you're getting the exclusive here.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, this is amazing. I mean, and again, I think because again, you've just solved the biggest criticism, I think, or one of the biggest criticisms with BitChute and the biggest concerns for content creators. And once this goes live and starts functioning, I hope your servers and everything are ready for it, because I see a mass exodus happening.
Yeah, I hope so. And I mean, and you guys are you're putting yourselves out there, and people choose to send you money or they choose not to, and that's how the whole alternative media works. And that's how I see alt tech working as well. That if we mess up, then people can cancel payments to us, and that encourages us not to mess up. It means that we're there. We're working on a model that means that, I'm not saying that we're going to go evil, but it means that we can't go evil, because that's our entire payments model. So, I mean, all these companies have started out on really bad, all the big tech companies have started out on really bad monetization models that they can only do the one thing now. I mean, Google has to sell your data, because there's no way that they can ever replace that. They'll never change to anything else. Same with Facebook. But we've started out on a model that makes us accountable, and that means that we've got to please our users, and we've got to please the creators, and we've got to please the viewers. So hopefully it works really well.
So if I understand correctly, then not only do you have checks and balances for your content creators and checks and balances for your users, but you've actually placed checks and balances for your guys, like the people who work inside BitChute. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so it means that in order for us to succeed, we have to always work with the community and really give them what they want. So we're going to be here working with you guys, working along the same monetization models that you use. Right, and that's I think it's really important to build up from the start a model that works along those lines. Otherwise, you end up with a company like Facebook that's selling all your data, and Google doing the same.
Right. Well, and I also think too that it not only works for content creators and users from a practical perspective, but it also works from an ethical perspective as well. And I think that is where a lot of big tech companies have lost their way. And, you see this, like, for instance, YouTube used to be committed to free speech. And then somewhere down the line, they said, no, we need to become good censors. We need to be the parents, and we need to treat everybody else like children. And, so we need to censor everything they do. And we're all adults here, or, many of us are. And so, being able to say, look, we have a social media platform like BitChute who treats us like the adults we are, who respects our rights to free speech, who respects our rights to freedom of expression, who respects our rights to freedom of choice, not just with the content we watch, but with how we choose to support those content creators, and how those content creators can choose to request support from their viewers. I think, again, these are awesome things. And I need to say one other thing too, is that you guys have been through hell. I mean, you've been DDoSed, you've been harassed, there's been brigading. Oh, and there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about as well that we talked about a little bit before that I almost forgot about. I'm going to put an article on the screen that was pretty damning that you showed to me. This is from Breitbart. And the title of the article is "Left-Wing Deplatform Hate Threatens Payment Processor Stripe Over Terms of Service." Can I get you to comment on this article?
Right. So a lot of us suspect that there's activist organizations working in the background to get companies like Bitchute kicked off the internet, like Gab, like Minds. We thought this was going on for a long time, but what we have in this article is actually clear evidence that it's going on. So we have this very small Twitter account, actually, Deplatform Hate, which is followed by and commented on by a lot of large, very well-known activist Twitter accounts like Sleeping Giants, like Right Wing Watch, all the ones that you're quite used to. And it appears in this article that they're actually blackmailing a senior person in Stripe in order to, in this instance, to remove Gab.
Let me
from their network.
Right. Let me jump in here, and I've highlighted some quotes from the article. Deplatform Hate, a far left Twitter account, seemed to blackmail big tech payment processing service Stripe on Saturday, threatening the company unless it changed its terms of service to the account's liking and posting messages with Stripe's general counsel showing the two parties discussing the blacklisting of free speech social network Gab. Now, it's important to remember, this is an article that was published on Breitbart on the 29th of October in 2018. I'm going to go on. The account also released several friendly messages with Stripe General Counsel John Ziegler, showing Ziegler and Deplatform Hate were talking about blacklisting Gab, which was recently banned from the service, and revealing Ziegler's interest in further talking to Deplatform Hate via phone call. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty damning. Now, I skimmed this article while we were talking before. Here's a copy of some of these tweets from Deplatform Hate. I will put a link to this article in the description. Again, you've got some other tweets here. And then this article is, I mean, it's pretty in-depth. It also says Deplatform Hate has been promoted by Antifa, Gizmodo Media's Splinter News, HuffPost, Think Progress, and left-wing advocacy and boycott group Sleeping Giants, who describe the account's work as amazing, which of course confirms everything Ray said about them being a left-wing hate group. So, yeah. So I apologize, Ray, for jumping in there. I just kind of wanted to touch base with the viewers and kind of highlight certain portions of the article. But go ahead and go on.
Right. So this is going on all the time. There can be no doubt. And, we know from some of our vendors, I don't want to go into too many details, that they do get emails and a lot of time publish what has gone. But there's a lot of brigading that's going on. There's a lot of organized brigading to try and get companies like ourselves, like Minds, like Gab, kicked off the internet. And it seems like right now a real focus is on the monetization side. So, you can understand why. But yeah, they really want to shut down. They really, really want to shut down, and they are focusing there. And it's borderline criminal.
Well, and I would say this. This is antitrust behavior. Because it is a third party interfering with the business relationships between two other parties for ideological reasons. And I would also say it's probably a civil tort claim or a civil lawsuit claim, because again, they're interfering with business relationships and they're having these discussions behind the scenes. And I'll tell you, it's kind of hilarious, because I'll tell you, if these companies got sued, and again, I'm not an attorney, these are just my personal opinions, they're not legal opinions. But if these companies got sued, right, for antitrust or for tortious interference with a business relationship or any of the, related causes of action that you can sue a company for under these sets of fact circumstances, the discovery phase would be amazing, because you'd be issuing subpoenas to these people and going, who do you work with? Who do you talk to? I want all your communications. And then going through those communications and finding those emails and phone calls. And like in the case of Deplatform Hate, they publish this stuff, so they can't really deny it at this point. I mean, Stripe is clearly at some point they're either working with them or they're friendly with them or they're allowing these people to have influence. And even the people who, they're committed to ethical business practices, like Ray said, these people are being targeted by these activist groups. And these activist groups are trying to interfere wrongfully with the business relationships of these social media platforms. This is an epidemic of stuff going on behind the scenes that I think a lot more attention needs to be drawn to. Because here's the thing, right? These people are cockroaches. They're cockroaches. They're parasites. They want to control the narrative. And you need to walk into the room and you need to flip the light on and watch the cockroaches run. And hopefully, if you're quick enough, you can stomp on them and kill them. And I mean that in a metaphorical sense, before they can cause more damage. But you definitely need to deal with some sort of solution to provide effective pest control when it comes to cockroaches like deplatform hate and sleeping giants and all the rest of them. Because really, the reality is that this isn't activism anymore. These people are subjecting themselves to legal liability, both in civil court and criminal court. And frankly, a lot of these social media platforms, and I'm not speaking about Bitchute. Bitchute and I have talked about it. Ray's talked about it with me behind the scenes. He's got a path he's going on. He's got a very good plan. Obviously, you see that he's got a great plan for his platform. I'm not going to reveal what some of those behind the scenes plans are, but I will say this. When social media platforms that are committed to free speech, like Bitchute, like Minds, like Gab, and some of the rest, when they go out of their way and get together and file a lawsuit against these organizations, or they get together and they file antitrust claims against these organizations that are trying to do these things, I think you're going to see the whole house of cards just fall. Because again, it's like what Google used to say, don't be evil. And now we find out that, they are the Sith lords of the internet, and big tech is working with them. I mean, it's a cartel. And it's really sad because a lot of people who are committed to free speech, who share some of those values with Google and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, they're being targeted. And I say that because, obviously ethical business practices are something that's important. And on a base level, I mean, I think a lot of us agree about certain things and about certain aspects of our business practices and our personal conduct. But when you have big tech platforms funding these activist organizations who are committing, issues that create legal liability for them, both criminally and civilly, those organizations not only need to be held accountable, but the organizations that fund them, the big tech platforms that fund them, they need to be held accountable as well. You need to follow the money. You figure out who funds these organizations and you shut them all down. And you file RICO actions against every one of them. And again, these are my personal opinions. This is not like, legal advice or anything like that. But I guarantee you that if you actually talk to an attorney about this, who his spine is not on layaway and his dick is not hidden in a purse somewhere, he will agree with me. So with that said, Ray, I just want to say I really appreciate the time you took today to have this conversation with me. I think it's an important conversation to have. And I think that people need to kind of know some of the stuff that's been going on behind the scenes, both the positive and the negative. And I'll tell you what, I'm really excited about the payment options that are coming to Bitchute. And I'm excited about the fact that you actually have an app now that people can put on their Android phones. I think those things are great. They're awesome news. Bitchute has very clearly come a long way. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with by way of closing statement?
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I mean, a few other things that are on the go. We have got another payments pro that's.
I'm sorry, you broke up again. Can you say that again?
We've made a lot of progress getting payments processors back, so we'll have smaller replacements, better replacements than Stripe, PayPal, and we'll have that in the coming, probably in the coming month. We'll be back up and running, and we'll be taking subscriptions, and people will be able to support us. We're also back up and running just very recently on Subscribestar. A lot of people have moved over to that, and they're good guys over there. We've spoken to them, so if would like to support us those ways, then they can do that right now, because we're rebuilding. Actually, we've gone from having quite a reasonable amount of income back down to nothing. We're rebuilding again, but we're going to keep rebuilding. We're not going to let them get to us. We're going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep improving the service. And I hope you all come along and join us for the ride, because it's going to be exciting. And let's not let these guys get us down.
Exactly. Well, and I will say this too. I mean, the fact that your platform is still live and running speaks to the resilience against the onslaught of censorship that you guys have received. So thank you very much for taking the time out and having this conversation today. I think, like I said earlier, it's an extremely important conversation to have. And I think some of the information that you provided, I think, is extremely important for the general public to be aware of. And I expect that, as people see this video and they understand what the facts are underlying it, that you're going to see a lot more support in the coming days, months, and years. So thank you again for taking the time out to chat with me today and to kind of go over some of this stuff and do a deep dive. I really appreciate it. I'm sure my viewers will really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thanks very much.